Jack? Jack, it's me. I'm in the bathroom, and it's May 30th. It's 4:18 a.m., or sometime around there. The little clock over the sink keeps sticking between the numbers because the battery's dying, and I haven't changed it, so maybe it's 6:17 or 6:19. I don't know. That part doesn't matter. I don't know what happened last night, Jack. I don't mean I slept badly and had one of those dreams that leaves everything feeling sticky and wrong the next morning. I mean I don't know what happened. Last night I remember clearly standing in the house and hearing something out on the porch. Not Anka, it was too heavy to be Anka. Not even footsteps exactly, just weight. That's the only way I know how to say it. It sounded heavy in the wooden boards. I remember sitting very still and listening to it after I locked the door. I remember thinking if I stayed quiet enough, maybe it would move on. And then nothing. I don't remember dreaming or waking up in the middle of the night or even getting into my bed. There's nothing, Jack. I woke up this morning in my own bed, and there was dirt under my nails, and my hair's all tangled up, and my feet are scraped to hell, and there's these little cuts on my toes, and black grit stuck in them that I had to pick out with my fingernails because it just wouldn't come off. I was barefoot, Jack. Whatever happened last night, I was outside barefoot, and I keep looking at myself in the mirror. I look wrong. I look like somebody found me instead of like I woke up in bed. There's dirt on my neck. How do you get dirt on your neck in your sleep? I keep trying to make this ordinary. Maybe I sleepwalked. Maybe I got up and wandered outside half asleep and dragged myself back in without realizing it, but that doesn't feel right. I don't have mud or dirt on the floor, and that's a part of it I just can't make fit. Because if I came in through the front door with feet like this, there should be something. A little trail or smears or footprints, something ugly and obvious that I can point at and say, there, see, I did this. But the floor is clean. Not properly clean, I mean my kind of clean. Normal enough. The only thing that's filthy is me in my bed, and that makes my skin feel tight and wrong, and there's this smell on me. Not like a sleep smell, but like the river, Jack. That cold, wet smell, like pennies and soaked wood and something green left too long in the damp dark. I'm going to go shower, Jack. I think if I stand here too long looking at myself, I'll start expecting the mirror me to tell the real me about whatever horrible things I'd done last night. I'll talk to you in a little bit, Jack. Jack, it's 6:52 a.m. now. I took a shower and the water went brown the moment it hit my feet. Not a dark brown like mud off of a dirty dog or a child that's been playing outside all day. Just a thin, ugly color swirling around down the drain. There are scratches all over my legs. It doesn't look that dramatic, but they look mean, like the kind of scratches that bramble bushes leave behind. There's one on the back of my calf that I couldn't see until I twisted around, and I almost slipped trying to look at it better. It's not deep, it's just red, and it stings. My feet burn now that they're clean, or at least as clean as I could get them. That's the worst part about cleaning things up sometimes, isn't it, Jack? That you don't really feel the hurt until the dirt's gone from the wound. My ankles are darker, and the bruises have that yellowing around the edges now, but the deeper part of them still look fresh. Both ankles in the same place with the same awful shape wrapping around them, like my body's trying to remember hands that were there. I stood there washing my hair under the water, and I had the strangest feeling for the second. Like I'd already done this. Not showering maybe, or maybe at least not this morning, just the feeling of the water running over me while I was standing very still and trying very hard not to think too hard. I know that doesn't mean anything, Jack, but everything feels like it means something lately. And I keep getting these little scraps of sensations, and none of them will turn into a memory. Cold air on wet skin, and the sound of water moving faster than it should, and that horrible feeling of standing somewhere for too long in anticipation, not knowing what's coming. And I don't like it, Jack. I got dressed for work anyway. That felt important, putting on my uniform and brushing out my hair. I put on my lipstick, even though my hand shook, and I smudged it the first time. I needed to feel like myself. I'm going to head into the diner a little early. Maybe coffee and the sound of people talking will make all of this feel less dramatic. Because that's all it is, Jack. I'm just being dramatic. I'll talk to you later. Jack, I'm in my car. I'm in the diner parking lot, and my hands are shaking so bad the tape recorder keeps bumping against the steering wheel. It's not May 30th. It's not. They said it was the 31st. And I know that's what they said because I made Suzanne repeat it. And then I made Frederick, our breakfast Frederick, not the evening Frederick, repeat it too because I thought maybe I'd heard her wrong. Like maybe the words had gone strange in the air between us. But they both looked at me the same way. Like I was the strange one. Jack, I lost a day. An entire day. But listen, Jack, when I walked into the diner, Rosemary was there. That's the first thing I saw. Rosemary there behind the counter with her apron on, pouring coffee like she hadn't vanished for days, and left me standing there in her place, wondering if she had drowned or run off or folded into some quiet corner of town where she wouldn't be found. She looked up at me and sort of smiled. It wasn't a warm smile or a rude one either, just a smile like she'd expected me to be standing there and like she had expected to smile at me in that moment. I remember thinking for half a second that maybe everything was fine. Maybe I had just built this up too much in my head because, Jack, I'm dramatic. Maybe I was the fool for turning her absence into a whole dark thing with teeth. And then Suzanne said, "Holly, where were you yesterday?" The way that you ask why someone missed church or forgot to return a pie dish after a potluck. And I said, yesterday was my day off. Because it was. It was the 29th, and I know it was. I know it the way that I know my own name, that yesterday was the 29th, and that today's the 30th. And Suzanne frowned, and Frederick looked up from the coffee machine, and there was this horrible little pause where I can feel something loosen inside of my gut. And then Suzanne said, "No, honey, yesterday was the 30th. Like she was correcting a child. And I laughed, and I said, "No, today's the 30th. And Frederick, with that same tired look he always has, like life had been explaining itself badly to him for years, said, "Holly, today's the 31st. And I actually felt cold all over, Jack. Not a shiver. It wasn't like nerves had gone up my spine. It was like something inside of me dropped straight through my middle and took all of my body heat with it. And I asked them what day they thought I missed. And that sounds stupid now, but I did. I said, "What day do you think I missed?" And Suzanne said, "Yesterday, the 30th, your breakfast shift. You never came in for it." They called the house phone, and there was no answer, Jack, of course. And Frederick said he stopped by because he thought maybe I was sick or hurt. And my car was out there still, but I didn't answer the door. And I didn't answer because I wasn't there. I wasn't there, Jack. Where was I? Where the hell was I? I woke up in my own bed this morning, filthy and sore and cut up like I'd been dragged through the woods. I keep looking at my hands like maybe they'll explain it. There's still dirt under one of my nails I missed. I was so sure, Jack. I was so sure that it was the 30th. I got dressed for work and I drove there thinking I was just shaken up from a bad night. I was irritated with myself for being dramatic. I was thinking thinking about whether I'd have time after my shift to go to the general store and pick up some things, and all the while I was already late by an entire day that already happened. No, not late. I wasn't late. I was gone from it. And Rosemary. Jack, I don't know what to do about Rosemary. She looked wrong. Not monstrous wrong, I don't mean that. She just looked off. Too pale, maybe. Her lipstick was a little outside the line on one side, which isn't like her at all. And when I asked her where she'd been, she just said, home. I was homesick. And I asked if she was all right, and she gave me this tiny shrug and said, I'm back, aren't I? I wanted to shake her, Jack. Not in a cruel way, just enough to make something real fall out of her. She kept moving around the diner like normal, but it was the kind of normal that makes you more uneasy than if she had just walked around screaming. She poured coffee for a customer and smiled at him and asked if he wanted more cream, and I stood there thinking I might be sick right there on the floor because how was she back and how had I lost a day and why did nobody else seem to hear how wrong everything sounded, Jack? Frederick told me to go home, and Suzanne agreed. She had that pinched, worried look that people get when they're trying to be kind without stepping into your business too far. And she said that since they already had the shift covered, I should just go home and rest. That part almost made me laugh again. Her words were all half worry and half convenience. I'm glad for it, actually. I don't think I could have carried a pot of coffee without dropping it today. I checked the little date on my dashboard clock after I got into the car, and then I checked the receipt from the gas station that was crumpled in my purse from a few days ago. Because, I don't know, Jack. I guess I thought maybe numbers would start behaving if I found enough of them to put together. It's the 31st. Everywhere I look, it's the 31st. So where did May 30th go, and where was I all of that time? What was I doing barefoot and in my pajamas? I keep thinking about waking up with dirt on my neck. I keep thinking about the porch, and I keep thinking maybe I didn't go with my own feet. And I know how that sounds. I do. I sound half hysterical. I can hear it. I don't know how else to say it, Jack. There's this crawling feeling in me, like something used me and then put me back where it found me, like I was borrowed. That's disgusting, and I hate the thought of it. I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. I'm so dramatic, Jack. I'm going to sit here a little longer, and I'm going to try to stop shaking, and then I'm going to call Dennis. I don't know why him, Jack. Maybe because if I hear his voice and he sounds normal, then maybe I'll remember what normal sounds like. I'll talk to you later, Jack. It's 3:42 p.m. now, Jack, and Dennis came over. I called from a payphone outside of the drugstore because I couldn't stand hearing the dead quiet in my house yet, and I didn't want to use the diner phone with everybody half listening, even when they pretended they weren't. He answered on the third ring, and I almost hung up anyway. I don't know why I called him. That's not true. I do know why. I called him because he feels solid to me. He feels like something with grease under its nails and a warm hand and a heartbeat that minds its own business. I just didn't expect him to come over so fast. I told him something was wrong. I didn't tell him everything, not the whole thing. I didn't know how. I just said I was upset and I needed, I don't know what word I used, company maybe? Help? Something smaller than what it meant. And he said, I'll be there. No hesitation in his voice, none at all, and that should probably bother me more than it does. But he's here now. He's in my kitchen making coffee, because I told him I didn't want any, and he said that wasn't really up to me right now, which would have annoyed me if it was anybody else. When he got here, the first thing he noticed was my feet, and I was embarrassed by that, standing there on the rug in my own house barefoot, all scrubbed clean but still looking used up. He crouched down in front of me to look at the cuts, and I had to grip the back of the chair because something about a man kneeling down in front of you when you feel wrecked and frightened is too intimate, even if all he's doing is gently touching your ankle and saying, "Jesus Christ, Holly." He asked me what happened, and I told him I didn't know. He didn't laugh, and he didn't give me that careful face that people use when they think a woman is being a little too emotional and they would like her to stop before it becomes inconvenient. He just looked at me, and then he looked around the house. He was looking at the door and the window and the floor. He asked me if somebody else had been there, and I said I didn't know, and he didn't push. I told him about the diner, about the date that I had wrong, and them saying I missed yesterday entirely. I left some things out, not the important things exactly, just the things that sound worse when you say them out loud. The river smell, and the feeling like I was borrowed, and the way Rosemary said, "I'm back, aren't I?" Like that was enough to make a person whole again. And he listened to me, Jack, he really listened. He leaned against the sink and he rubbed his hand over his mouth and said, "All right, Holly." Not because he had an answer, but because he decided something. I asked what all right meant, and he said, "It means I'm not leaving you alone tonight." Jack, I know. I know exactly how that sounds and why I should maybe have a few more objections ready than I did. I tried one, a weak one. I said, "What about Lila?" And something washed over his face too quick for me to get a good glimpse at. And he said, "Lila isn't going to mind." He said it so flatly that I didn't know what to do with it. So I did the cowardly thing, and I let the sentence sit there between us without touching it. Maybe that makes me awful, Jack. But maybe I was awful before this, too, and I'm only noticing it because everything else has gone so ugly that my own ugliness stands out more. He asked me if I wanted him to stay, and I said yes too fast. And he noticed it. I know he noticed. He didn't make me feel embarrassed about it, though, and that almost made it worse. I haven't told him about Gordon, or the phone call that sounded like it was underwater, or the cloth in the river, or the dream with the hand. There are things that feel stupid once a man is sitting in your kitchen with rolled sleeves that shrink under ordinary light, and I could still feel them behind everything. They feel like mildew under wallpaper. He's moving around softly in the other room now, and my house sounds different with him in it. Less hollow. And that should comfort me. And it does comfort me, but it also makes me feel sick. I'll talk to you later, Jack. Hi, Jack. It's 12:57 a.m., and I'm standing outside on the porch. I know that sounds foolish after everything, but it's quiet out here. It's really quiet. Not the wrong kind of quiet either. Just the nighttime kind of quiet. The air's colder than I expected, not enough to hurt or bite at your nose, just enough to make me wish I grabbed a sweater, instead of stepping out in one of Dennis's shirts, like some sort of shameless woman in a film that ends badly. He's asleep in my bed right now, Jack, and I can't quite believe I said that out loud. He fell asleep fast, one arm over his eyes like he trusted the dark enough to not keep watch on it. I stood there looking at him longer than I should have, and there's something so tender about a sleeping person, isn't there? Even when they've made a mess of things, and even when you've made a mess of things. It makes my chest hurt. Not in a bad way, or maybe it is a bad way. Maybe tenderness is just another way to get yourself into trouble quietly. Anka is here. He's curled up in his usual spot. He opened up one eye when I came out, like he was making sure it was just me and not something pretending to be me. And then he tucked his face back down and went back to sleep. I'm jealous of that, honestly. I keep thinking about the missing day, Jack. I don't have any answers, and it's almost the next day. Isn't that awful? I lost a whole day, and all I've managed to do is wash it off of my skin, cry once in the bathroom where Dennis couldn't hear me, and let a married man sleep in my bed. That sounds ugly when I lay it out plain like that. The porch is calm, and the yard is still, and the trees and the dark and the Anka breathing like a tiny machine. It all just feels too normal and too calm and too peaceful, and it reminds me that everything else in my mind is far too much. I wish I knew whether that meant I'm safe or whether something has simply finished with me for now. I'm just tired, Jack. Maybe tomorrow will feel more sensible. And maybe Rosemary will look me in the eye and tell me where she really was. And maybe I'll wake up and remember everything, and I'll be horribly embarrassed by all of this. That would be nice. But I don't think that's what's going to happen, Jack. I'm going to go back inside. Good night.